Good morning! I hope you guys are having a great day. We've got something crazy today. What we are going to do is we are going to turn this dollar store bat into something a little more creative, something a little more scary. So stick around and I will show you how we do that. We are going to do something a little bit artsy today. What we're going to do is we're going to take a dollar store skeleton and try to mummify it. It's just one of those plain little skeleton dudes, so what we're going to try to do is give him a little bit of meat, a little bit of texture, and just see if we can amp him up a bit. I've decided to go ahead and do a bat today, so the first thing that I'm going to need is a bat. So I went to the dollar store and I got my little bat. This guy's pretty cool as is, but I think we can make him a little bit cooler. Now, if you're an artsy kind of person, you've probably got a lot of art supplies laying around, but if not, I'll try to tell you where you can get the things that you're going to need for this. First thing you're going to need is your little skeleton dude. Got mine at the dollar store, cost me $1. And because I already have all the other supplies, that's all I'm going to end up spending on this project. Other things we're going to need is some paint, some of these kitchen gloves, a heat gun, and whatever other art supplies you think you might need just to personalize and make it your own. As you know, on this channel we like to try new things, so let's try something new, and hopefully this is new and exciting for you. So first thing we're going to do is take his little package off here, just like that. I like to work with a tray because it keeps my desk pretty. One of the cool features I noticed about this guy pretty quick, his head turns. It's got the jaw that does whatever. We may end up gluing that in place and we may leave it off, I don't know. Now he would be a little bit hard to work with in one whole piece, so the first thing I want to do is take him apart. I'm going to start by popping off the head, just like that. Also, the wings look like they could pop off. Yep, there we go. Alright. And the rest of them is one piece. I think one of the first things I want to do is get a little bit of paint on him to bring out some of these features. As is, he's not colored too well, but he does have a lot of cool features that I think could be brought out to make him a bit more interesting. So let's go ahead and do that. I think what I'm going to start by doing is using a darker color to bring out some of the features on him, and then we'll go from there. I'm going to start with a brown. And just put a really thin layer on him like this. I don't want to go too thick because I want the features to stand out with this and not create my own just by putting the paint on too thick, you know what I mean? I don't have to worry too much about covering up the teeth right now because we're going to paint those teeth later on. Now that I've got him nice and coated, what I'm going to do is take a paper towel and get all the excess off. Oh yeah, that looks really good. The coloring now versus what it looked like originally. And while that head is drying, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing to all the rest of it. Gotta make sure you get up inside that rib cavity there. Since you can see between the bones, you don't want to look through and look like you're looking at something white. There we go. And same thing, let's take our rag and just get rid of some of that excess. You don't want to push too hard because then you take off too much, but about like that is looking really good. Now this part's going to be under a layer of wrap, so I can leave it a little bit darker so that it shows through a little bit better. And let's move on to the wings. Now you don't have to use brown for this, you can use whatever color you want, but I think that the brown kind of gives it almost a hint of dried blood, you know what I mean? Some people like to use blacks or grays to bring out the crack in the bone, or you know, something that makes it look like it's been rotting or something, but I like the idea of the dried blood, especially after you put the wraps over it, because it just gives it that once was alive feel. And there we go. Now the best thing to do at this point is to let it dry completely. If that takes too long for you and you just don't feel like waiting that long, what you can do is take like a hair dryer and dry it off so you can move on to the next step. But hey, work at your own pace and see how it goes. Now that he is all dry, what I want to do is I want to start putting a little bit of skin back on him, you know what I mean? There are a couple different ways you can do this. Now, some people like to use latex, either liquid latex or latex gloves or whatever. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. What I've got are these kitchen grade, one size fits all food handling gloves. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut one apart so that there's basically a set of clothes for him that I'm going to slide onto him, and then and then I'm going to run the heat gun over that to shrink wrap it, you know? Okay, so since he's got these nice little legs here, I think I'm going to make him a pair of pants and then slide maybe the thumb area over the abdomen. Let's just see how that works. The fingers are all pretty much the same size, but I think I'll take the middle two because they are probably the closest similarity. Let's see if we can't just get these on him here. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Go ahead and tuck that excess up into the ribs there. Make a little hole for the top. Now what you want to be careful for when you're doing this is you don't want to put too many layers of plastic on top of each other. What you want to do is put one layer on, shrink it. If you want to do another layer, put another layer on, shrink that. Now the hotter that you make it, the more it's going to melt, and it may separate in some areas. If you're okay with that, great. If you don't want it to separate, just be real careful. So this is where we use the heat gun. That turned out awesome. Alright. If you're wondering how hard the plastic is, it's actually pretty tough. So at this point you might be wondering, you know, it looks like plastic, but we're actually going to paint over that too. If you're happy with what you got, go ahead and just leave it. If not, hey, hit it again or put some more plastic on and try to make it thicker, whatever you need to do. I'm actually going to hit his back ribs a little bit more because there's a lot more skin on the back than there is on the front, and I just want to get them a little more rotten. Now, next I want to have a look at these wings. If your bat is going to look like it's been taxidermied and spread out on a slab or put in a shadow box or something like that, then these are perfect because they're totally flat. You lay it down and you've got your flat bat. If you want, we can make these curve. I don't want to do it too much. I don't want him to look like, you know, he's hanging in a tree all wrapped up or something, but maybe a little bit of bend might make him a little more interesting. So let me see about doing that. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to take my Dremel and I'm going to just give him a few cuts, not too deep, but a little bit to weaken the joint areas. Probably here, maybe here and here. And then I'll heat it with the heat gun again and see if I can't get a little bit of fold in those wings. There we go, just kind of hit it like that in some of the thicker spots. And then I will heat up the area and see if I can't get it to fold a little bit. I should probably mention, don't burn yourself doing this. The point of the heat gun is to get hot, so this stuff is all pretty hot. But look at that already. Much more lifelike than the flat one. Let's go ahead and do it to the other one. Okay, now that the wings have cooled and we are ready to start putting some kind of skin over them, you know, that fleshy material. We also want to think about the head. Are we going to leave the head plain, or should we put some kind of skin coating over that? I'm actually totally undecided on this part. What I might do is put some on, and if I don't like it, just take a knife and scrape it back off. I don't know. Let's see what we can do with that. I'm struggling with static electricity here. I've let this ear be totally covered and this one only partially covered, and then I've covered the whole face, but with the heat gun I'm gonna get it hot enough so that it melts quite a bit of it so that it's more patchy than anything. Skin stretched and stuff like that, so See what he looks like after he's painted and decide from there, I guess. Let's do the wings. Now the wings at this point are going to be tricky. No matter how you do it. What I could do is use this material. You saw how it kind of looks like dead skin anyway. Let's just try this, see how it turns out. What I'm using for this bit is the palm of the glove that we used for the rest of this guy. So let's just be resourceful and see what happens here. I actually have no idea what's going to happen here. Let's find out. Okay, it just kind of shrink wraps on there. Now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. Because I think I'm okay with the way that that turned out. So we'll snip off the fingers. Actually, we'll leave the thumb on this one. I'm going to try to get that little bone right there inside the thumb. There we go. And let's heat it up. Okay, and I went ahead and left this one a little bit meatier just to have a little bit of variation in the wings here. So now what I want to do is basically repaint him, give him a little variation in color, and get him painted. Okay, so what I've done at this point is I have just added brown paint, painted the wings, and pretty much just cover up all of the plastic. That's what you really got to do here, is just cover the plastic and let that dry. You can see how it turns out. It really enhances the plastic, so it looks like, well, it looks like that. And I mean, I went ahead and used the brown. You guys can of course do whatever color you want. I just think it looks like a really good dead skin. Now what I used on the bones was kind of a, it was more of a reddish brown. And that, you can definitely tell the difference on here. And then for the skin texture, I went ahead and used a, what is it called? Burnt umber. Burnt umber. That's a good name. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, he's basically white and brown. I mean, as good as he looks, he's just white and brown. So what I'm going to do is add a little bit of color here and there. What I'm going to start with is a gray. The gray that I'm going to be using is actually a stain. This is a weathered gray, and I'm just going to highlight some of the areas with it. This will take a lot longer to cure, but I think in the end it'll be worth it. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of that and see how it turns out. And of course you guys can do whatever colors you want. And then once we get the stain dried, we'll go ahead and start filling in things like making the teeth white, and just, I've got a few more surprises, so bear with me. Let's go ahead and put in the gray. This is the shade I'm going to be using. I'll go ahead and start with the head on this one. What I just want to do is kind of just really thinly accent my ears and things like that, and just giving it a little bit of variation in the color. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's about what I'm doing right there. Yeah, as you can see, it just kind of adds to the rotting effect, and you'll really see that once it dries in there. You'll see how that turns out. And with just a little bit of that gray stain, I mean, it's still drying, but you can see what it does. It just kind of adds to the rotten effect that I'm going for here. Really, just make it your own. What I'm gonna go ahead and do is add a little bit of greens and things like that to, you know, give it a little bit of effect, but just do whatever you want. Make it your own. Make it exciting. And of course, don't forget, if the store didn't have the color you want, you can always mix your own colors. So, like I said, I want to do something a little bit green. I'm not sure what yet, but I don't want it to be like stoplight green or something. So what I've got is a darker green. I'm gonna go ahead and darken that with a little bit of black. And that is pretty cool. It's a super dark green right now. But what I want to do with this is just kind of highlight some of the rim areas. Let me show you what I mean. Like the edges of the plastic. Make it look like something's just kind of eating away at that right there. Just give it a little bit of rotten, you know what I mean? I'm gonna keep it real subtle, but it'll make a big difference in the end result. There we go. Start to highlight some of those ridges. And then once you have down the areas that you want to get, feel free to just splatter some on here, you know? Just give it some texture. Just because the canvas isn't even, you never really know where it's going to show up. So you can't predict it if you're going to be doing it like this, but at the same time, it'll add a pretty good effect. It's still a little wet right now, but you can see the way it's starting to dry in some of the areas. I'll go ahead and speed through this bit so you guys don't have to sit through it, but you get the idea what I'm doing here. And show you a little bit closer up with what it's looking like on the body here. Okay, and I think we will be done with that green and move on to the next bit. Something I want to do to add just a little bit more is I want to put a bit of black in just to darken it and not make it all so much the same color, but rather than like dabbing pinholes of black or something, I think what I'm going to do is take a can of black spray paint and just give them a real quick dust, and I think that'll add quite a bit here. Overall, you can't really tell, but it is quite a bit darker. What I want to add is a little bit of red. Now I don't want to dab red paint, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some of this fake blood that I got at the store. Is zombie spray blood, and I'm just going to dust him a little bit with that, just to get a little bit of, you know, blood effect. Test squirt to make sure it's okay. There. Maybe if I learn how to aim it, that would help. Look a bit more like Halloween. Let's let this dry and then see what he looks like. Okay, so the blood is dry, and it looks pretty good. I mean, once it's dried, it's not as gory as it was. I mean, look at this picture right here. But now it's much more subtle, which I like. What I'm gonna do next is the teeth. Now I've opted to keep his mouth shut instead of open, so not as many teeth are visible, but there are still a few that just kind of hang out a little bit. So we're gonna go ahead and hit those. Rather than using a fine brush, what I'm gonna use is a toothpick so that I can just kind of poke at those areas kind of like a dentist does, you know. And I'm not going to use a pure white because that's just going to be too bright on this guy. So what I've got is a, that's not it. Yeah, what I've got is this kind of off-white. It's called linen that I'm just going to go ahead and put on here. So let's see what this does. Super subtle, but enough that when you look at him up close, you get some of that detail. Alright, so I think overall he's pretty good to go. I'm gonna snap him back together and let's see how he looks. Let me show you guys close up what he looks like, and then we'll hold him up to the original and you guys can see exactly what kind of transformation we just did here, but I like the way it turned out. So there you go, there's your do-it-yourself bat making mummifying tutorial thingy. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I sure did. I think this guy's really cool. If you like what you saw, I hope you guys give me a big thumbs up. I'd really appreciate that, and also be sure to share your thoughts in the comment section. Tell me what you would have done differently, or if you liked the project at all. That would be great. Thanks. Make sure you guys are subscribed to catch all the other videos that we're going to do. I might do a couple more of these if you guys really like them. I've got a few more ideas that are just crazy, so hey. That's what I got for today. Hope you guys have a great day, and we will see you soon.